Mercedes built their longest-range electric car, then stretched it into a wagon nobody asked for. The CLA 250-plus shooting brake covers up to 769 kilometers, around 478 miles, on a single charge. In an estate with 455 liters of boot space, around 16.1 cubic feet, and a 101-liter front trunk, it becomes the most efficient way to move a family and their belongings across Europe without stopping. But the range figure hides something that matters more than the number itself, and that is the engineering Mercedes used underneath to earn it. Whether the suspension, the charging architecture, and the ownership math actually hold up is what this walkaround answers. In sheer blue metallic, the CLA shooting brake reads differently than in darker colors. The body lines catch light across the shoulder crease in a way that darker finishes absorb, and the shark nose front gains visual depth rather than blending into shadow. The proportions are identical to the CLA saloon up to the B-pillar. Beyond it, the roofline extends rearward and drops more gradually than the old shooting brake, creating a longer visual mass between the rear wheel arch and the tailgate. A full-width light bar connects star-shaped taillights at the rear, and the tailgate integrates a subtle ducktail spoiler that reads as a design decision rather than an aftermarket addition. Flush door handles retract into the body, and combined with the sealed grille panel hosting 142 illuminated stars, every surface works toward a drag coefficient of 0.21. For a wagon, that number belongs in a conversation with dedicated aerodynamic saloons. Standard roof rails support 75 kilograms. The car can tow up to 1,800 kilograms. No other electric estate under 60,000 euros offers both figures. The old CLA shooting brake ran a torsion beam at the rear. This generation uses multi-link suspension on every version, even the entry-level CLA 200. That change is the one most reviewers mention once and move past too quickly. What multi-link actually does on an uneven secondary road is absorb the lateral rocking that torsion beam setups never solved. The rear passengers notice the difference before the driver does. On a car where rear comfort was already the weakest argument, the suspension upgrade quietly changes the ownership case. The MBUX Superscreen runs 3 displays across a vertical dashboard, a 10.25-inch driver cluster, a 14-inch central touchscreen, and a 14-inch passenger screen, all on the new MBUX operating system. The center console floats between driver and passenger, with a lower storage tray underneath, and a wireless charging pad that holds a phone in place during corners. Mercedes reduced the physical switch count, but a volume roller and an adaptive cruise rocker on the steering wheel survived the purge. Those 2 switches fix the complaints that defined the last MBUX generation, and you stop thinking about what was removed because the things that remained are the ones your hands reach for. The selfie camera above the central screen is standard. The face recognition system adjusts the seat, mirrors, and climate to whoever sits down. I expected that feature to be a gimmick. It recognized me on the second entry without hesitation, which is more than I can say for my phone in strong sunlight. One detail for long-term buyers: Mercedes sells navigation, traffic sign recognition, and live traffic updates as digital extras. These are software subscriptions that can expire. The full MBUX experience that reviewers praise during launch events depends on keeping those subscriptions active. Ask about renewal pricing before you sign. The front seats use softer padding than the previous generation, but the side bolsters hold shape through sustained cornering without creating pressure points on longer drives. Headroom has gained 14 millimeters over the outgoing car. Legroom gained 11. You notice both because the old car was tight enough that any gain registers immediately. The driving position sits lower than you expect for an EV, partly because Mercedes kept the battery thin, and partly because the seat adjustment range accommodates a wide spread of heights without the perched-on-top feeling that plagues floor-mounted battery cars. You sit in this car rather than on it, which is a distinction that matters on a 4-hour motorway run. There is one detail that divides opinion. Mercedes now uses only 2 window switches for all 4 doors. You press a button to toggle between front and rear. Some people find this infuriating. I found it prevented me from accidentally opening the rear windows with my elbow, which happened in the old car more often than I want to admit. Rear passengers gained 26 millimeters of headroom over the saloon, thanks to the extended roofline and the standard panoramic glass roof. The roof uses heat-insulated safety glass with adjustable opacity and 158 embedded LED stars that synchronize with the ambient lighting. At night, the stars create a ceiling that passengers notice before they notice the legroom. Shoulder room is still narrow. Access through the rear doors requires the familiar CLA squeeze past the B-pillar, and any adult above average height will notice the knee room before the headroom gain. Underseat foot space is tighter than a Tesla Model 3 or a Volkswagen ID.7. Two USB-C ports delivering 100 watts each sit in the back of the center console, with rear climate vents standard on every trim. For children and shorter adults, the rear cabin is genuinely comfortable. For anyone over 180 centimeters, it remains the trade this body shape demands. A weekend bag, a pushchair, and two soft grocery bags fit without folding anything. 455 liters below the parcel shelf is 50 liters more than the saloon, and the real gain is in shape rather than volume. The floor is flat, the opening is wide, and the powered tailgate is standard. The 40-20-40 split-fold rear seats expand the space to 1,290 liters. The load lip height sits low enough to slide a heavy case over without lifting, which matters when the boot floor is raised slightly by the battery underneath. The 101-liter front trunk under the bonnet takes two airline cabin bags. And because the 250 Plus is rear-wheel drive with no front motor, the frunk volume is identical across the entry-level and mid-range versions of this car. .268 horsepower from a single rear-mounted permanently excited synchronous motor. 335 Newton-meters of torque, 0 to 100 in 6.8 seconds, around 6.6 seconds to 60 miles per hour. That is brisk rather than dramatic, and the power delivery is smooth enough that you never feel shoved into the seat. The two-speed gearbox on the rear axle is the reason this car achieves its range. First gear handles acceleration and urban driving. Second gear drops motor speed at highway pace, reducing consumption in a way that single-speed EVs cannot replicate. Mercedes borrowed the principle from the Porsche Taycan. Porsche uses it for speed, Mercedes uses it for efficiency. And the result is a car that returns between 12.7 and 15.2 kilowatt-hours per 100 kilometers, which means it covers motorway distances with less energy per kilometer than most electric hatchbacks. Up to 769 kilometers WLTP, around 478 miles. Real-world testing in a UK winter, mostly motorway, returned around 580 kilometers, roughly 360 miles, without hypermiling. The 85 kilowatt-hour battery charges at up to 320 kilowatts on 800-volt stations, 10 to 80% in 22 minutes. 10 minutes adds roughly 320 kilometers, around 200 miles. There is one ownership detail that most reviews skim past. As standard, this car cannot fast charge on 400-volt DC stations. Those are still the majority of public rapid chargers across Europe. The optional converter costs €654 and 50 cents. It is not retrofittable. If your regular charging routes include older infrastructure, that option is essential. The fact that Mercedes does not include it as standard on a car over €57,000 is the single most frustrating decision on this car. €57,096 in Germany for the CLA 250 Plus shooting brake. €1,237 more than the saloon. The BMW i4 starts lower but delivers shorter range and no estate body. The Tesla Model 3 costs less but offers a smaller boot and a cabin that does not match this finish. The Volkswagen ID.7 Tourer is the closest in format, larger inside, less expensive, but without the 800-volt architecture or the charging speed. The real question is not whether Mercedes should have built an electric estate. That argument is settled. It is whether the range, the suspension upgrade from torsion beam to multi-link, and the charging speed justify choosing this over a less expensive alternative with more interior space. For most buyers, the answer depends on how far you drive between charges and whether you value the way a car feels on the Autobahn over how much room your rear passengers have. I expected to find more wrong with this car than I did, and the most frustrating thing I found is a €654 option that should be standard. That is an annoying answer because it means the car itself earned the price. If you can live with a rear space and you tick the 400-volt converter box on the configurator, there is nothing in this segment that matches what this car does for the money. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe for more content just like this. Leave a comment below with your thoughts or questions. I read every single one. And don't forget to click the bell icon to get notified about my next upload. See you in the next video.